Emily was on her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Michael, don't do this," she sobbed, clutching my hand like her life depended on it. "I made a mistake." A mistake. That's what she called it. A mistake she repeated for months, in hotel rooms, in his car, in our own bed when I wasn't home. A mistake that had a name, Jason. I stared down at her, my heart pounding in my chest, not with sadness, not with regret, but with something cold and sharp. Satisfaction. She had no idea that this moment, her pathetic begging, was exactly what I planned. Because I didn't just find out about her affair. I orchestrated her downfall. 1 week earlier. I had noticed the signs, the late nights, the distant glances, the phone she never let out of her sight. But nothing hit me harder than the hotel receipt I found in her purse. Room 307. One night. 2 guests. That was the night I decided I wouldn't just confront her. I'd destroy her. 1 week earlier, I sat in my car, gripping that hotel receipt like a death sentence. Emily had always been a good liar, too good. The way she could look me straight in the eyes and say, "I love you," while sneaking around with another man made my blood boil. But anger wasn't enough. I needed proof. I needed her to feel what I felt when I saw that receipt. That night, I acted normal. I kissed her on the cheek when she came home, asked about her day, watched as she smiled and lied straight to my face. Work was exhausting, she sighed, tossing her bag on the couch. Long meetings, but at least it's over now. I could still smell his cologne on her. I clenched my jaw but forced a smile. "Yeah? What was the meeting about?" She didn't even flinch. "Just some project deadlines. You know how it is." That was the moment I knew she had done this before. Lying was second nature to her. She thought I was clueless, the faithful husband who never questioned her late nights or ignored the way she suddenly started going to the gym 3 times a week after years of refusing. I played along. I had to. The next day, I took a day off work and started digging. I went through her phone records first. She had Jason saved as Emily's work in her contacts. Clever, but not clever enough. I pulled up their call history. Dozens of calls, text at all hours. Then came her emails. She wasn't dumb enough to leave any direct evidence, but she had one slip-up. A deleted email reservation for a spa weekend 2 months ago. A weekend she told me she spent at her mother's. The pieces were falling together. That evening, I followed her. She told me she had dinner with the girls. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, and then watched as she drove straight to him. Jason was younger than me, built like a personal trainer, probably full of fake charm. I followed them to a quiet restaurant, watching from the parking lot as she laughed, touched his hand, leaned in close like she used to do with me. It took everything in me not to walk in and end it right there. But I needed more. The next hour confirmed what I already knew. After dinner, they left together. Not home. Not separate cars. Straight to his apartment. I parked down the street and sat there, staring at the building. She was in there. With him. My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to go up, pound on his door, drag her out and scream at her in front of the whole neighborhood. But no, Emily didn't deserve a simple confrontation. She deserved consequences. That night, while she was wrapped in another man's arms, I was planning her downfall. She had no idea what was coming. The next morning, Emily walked into the house like nothing happened. Her hair was damp from a shower, her makeup barely smudged, like she had cleaned herself up before coming home. She even had the audacity to stretch and yawn, acting like she had an exhausting girls' night out. "Morning, babe," she said casually, walking over to kiss me. I let her. Her lips touched mine, soft and warm, but all I could taste was deception. "Morning," I replied, forcing a smile. "Did you have fun?" She nodded, pouring herself a cup of coffee like she wasn't a lying snake. "Yeah, it was great. We stayed up talking all night. You know how girls are. Lies. Every word." I wanted to snap. I wanted to throw my coffee in her face, slam my fist on the table, demand she tell me the truth, but that would be too easy. No, I wanted her to suffer. That day, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the best divorce attorney in the city. A shark. The kind of guy who didn't just win cases, he destroyed the other side. I laid everything out for him, and his response was simple. "We can bury her. But first, we need solid proof." Proof. Right. I already had enough to know she was cheating. But in court, that was a different story. If I wanted to come out of this with everything, our house, our savings, everything I built, I needed undeniable, bulletproof evidence. That night, I installed cameras. Small, discreet ones. One in the living room. One in the bedroom. one in the hallway near the front door. If Emily was bringing Jason into my house, I'd catch them in the act. The waiting game began. Days passed, and she kept up the charade. Sweet kisses, casual conversations, pretending she was the perfect wife. But I saw the cracks. She was more distant. Spent extra time texting. And then, on Friday, she gave me the excuse I had been waiting for. I'm heading out with the girls again tonight. Perfect. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, and the moment she walked out that door, I checked the cameras. She was gone for exactly 20 minutes before she came back, this time with him. I watched from my phone as she let Jason into my house, laughing, leading him straight to our bedroom. My blood ran cold. I had known. I had followed them. I had suspected. But seeing it? Watching my wife, the woman I once trusted, bring another man into my home, into my bed? Something inside me snapped. But I didn't storm in. Not yet. I let them have their moment, let them feel comfortable. Because when I finally made my move, it would be unforgettable. Emily had no idea, but she had just sealed her fate. I sat in my car, gripping my phone as I watched the live footage from the cameras. Emily and Jason were in my bedroom, laughing, kissing, completely unaware that I was watching their every move. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This wasn't the moment to act. Not yet. If I wanted my revenge to hit the hardest, I needed to wait for the perfect time. I had already set the stage for her downfall, but now I had an idea to make it even worse. I called my lawyer. I have video proof, I told him. She brought him into my house. My bed. He chuckled darkly. That's more than enough. We can push for full asset control, make sure she walks away with nothing. But if you want to humiliate her, let me handle it. Do it. The plan was set in motion. Now, it was time for the next step. I waited outside, watching the camera feed, listening to them whisper their sweet nothings, making plans about a future where I no longer existed. Jason was arrogant, laughing about how clueless I was. Does he suspect anything? He asked, lying in my bed like he owned it. Emily ran her fingers through his hair, completely relaxed. Not a chance. Michael's too trusting. He'd never believe I'd do something like this. Too trusting. I clenched my fists. That was her mistake. They stayed for over an hour. When they were finally done, Jason kissed her one last time and left through the front door. Emily, still glowing from her betrayal, walked straight to the bathroom to shower. That was my moment. I got out of my car and walked into the house. The second my foot crossed the threshold, everything felt different. The air was thick with the scent of betrayal, her perfume, his cologne, the faint smell of sweat from what they had just done. I exhaled slowly, letting the anger settle in my chest. Not yet. Hold it in. I heard the shower running. Emily had no idea I was home. Perfect. I walked straight to the bedroom. The bed was messy, the sheets tangled. Our sheets. I could still see the imprint where their bodies had been. Disgusting. I pulled out my phone, took pictures of everything, and sent them straight to my lawyer. More evidence. More leverage. Then, I sat down on the edge of the bed and waited. Minutes passed. The shower stopped. The door creaked open. Emily walked out, wrapped in a towel, humming softly. She didn't see me at first. She was too busy drying her hair. Then, she looked up. Her entire body froze. Michael. Silence. Her face drained of color as she stared at me, her towel slipping slightly from her shoulder. I tilted my head, keeping my expression unreadable. Have a nice shower? She blinked rapidly, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. I didn't know you were home. I gestured around the room. Yeah, I figured. Looks like you had company. Her eyes darted to the bed. She knew. She knew there was no excuse. No way to lie her way out of this. But Emily was a survivor, and survivors always try. She straightened, gripping the towel tighter. Michael, it's not what it looks like. A bitter laugh escaped me. Not what it looks like. Are you serious? She stepped closer, her eyes suddenly filled with fake tears. I made a mistake. I was weak. He meant nothing to me. Nothing? I repeated, my voice dangerously low. You brought him into our house. Into our bed. Emily reached for my hand. Please, Michael, don't do this. I love you. We can fix this. I stared at her, feeling absolutely nothing. Then, I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Jason's voice filled the room. Does he suspect anything? Emily's own voice answered. Not a chance. Michael's too trusting. He'd never believe I'd do something like this. Her eyes widened in horror. I let the recording play to the end, watching as she crumbled. She tried again. Michael, I stood up, cutting her off. Save it. Her breath hitched. What are you going to do? I smiled coldly. You'll find out soon enough. Emily had no idea, but her entire life was about to collapse. Emily stood there, her body still damp from the shower, her breath uneven as she stared at me in pure panic. She wasn't crying, not yet. She was too busy scrambling for a way out, trying to process how I had flipped the script on her. I could see the calculations behind her eyes. Lie? Beg? Blame me? She went with option 3. Michael, listen. Her voice was desperate, but the cracks in her act were already showing. I know I made a mistake, but you have to understand. Our marriage, things haven't been the same. You've been distant, busy, always at work. I felt alone. I let out a short, bitter laugh. There it was. The excuse. You felt alone? I repeated slowly, taking a step toward her. So, what? You decided the best way to fix that was by screwing another man in our bed. She winced at my words. It wasn't like that. I cut her off. It was exactly like that. Silence. She looked at the floor, her chest rising and falling as she realized there was no way out. So, what now? She whispered. You're leaving me? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Oh no, Emily. That would be too easy. Her lips parted, confusion flashing across her face. She had expected me to yell, maybe throw something, demand a divorce in a blind rage. But I was calm, and that terrified her more than anything. She knew something was coming, and she was right. I pulled my phone out again. I sent everything to my lawyer. The videos, the pictures, your little love confession. He says I have more than enough proof to take everything. Emily paled. What? You heard me. I crossed my arms, tilting my head slightly. The house, the savings, everything. You cheated. You lose. That's how this works. Her mouth opened and closed. Michael, no, you can't. I took another step forward, lowering my voice. Watch me. Tears welled up in her eyes now, real ones. Not because she regretted what she had done, but because she realized she was trapped. She tried one last time. Michael, please. I'll do anything. We don't have to do this. We can fix us. I let her words hang in the air for a moment before I gave her my final answer. No, Emily. We can't. I turned and walked out of the room. She didn't follow me. She just stood there, breathing heavily, gripping the towel around her body like it could somehow protect her from what was coming. But nothing could. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset, but because I was too busy planning. By morning, everything was set. The divorce papers were filed. The bank accounts were locked. And Emily had no idea. I woke up early, showered, dressed, and walked into the kitchen like it was any normal day. Emily was already there, sitting at the table, staring at her untouched coffee. She looked terrible. Good. When she saw me, she swallowed hard. Michael, I held up a hand, cutting her off. No. We're done talking. Her eyes filled with tears again, but she nodded. She knew. She just didn't know how bad it was going to get. I grabbed my car keys. By the way, we're having guests later. Her brows furrowed. Guests? I smiled. Yep. Be home at 7. Then I walked out, leaving her confused, anxious, and completely in the dark. What she didn't know was that tonight would be the night everything fell apart for her. The clock struck 7 p.m. I sat on the couch, completely at ease, sipping on a glass of whiskey. Emily had no idea what was coming. She had spent the entire day on edge, pacing back and forth, likely trying to figure out what I meant by guests. Was it my lawyer? Her family? Some kind of intervention? I didn't tell her. Let the suspense eat her alive. At exactly 7:05, the doorbell rang. Emily flinched, glancing at me with wide, panicked eyes. I took another slow sip of my drink before setting the glass down and standing up. Go ahead, I said casually. Get the door. She swallowed hard but obeyed, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for the handle. The second the door swung open, her entire body went rigid. There, standing on the porch, was Jason. And next to him, his wife, Anna. Emily let out a sharp breath, her face draining of color so fast I thought she might pass out. Anna was a beautiful woman, tall, elegant, with piercing blue eyes that held a storm of rage barely contained beneath the surface. Jason, on the other hand, looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, realizing he had nowhere to go but down. Emily. Anna's voice was cold, sharp. Emily's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I stepped forward, leaning casually against the doorway. Glad you could make it. Jason turned to me, his expression dark. What the hell is this, Michael? I smirked. A little reunion. Thought it was about time all the cheaters got together in one room, don't you? Anna let out a short, humorless laugh. You're disgusting, she spat at Jason. Then her gaze snapped to Emily. And you, I welcomed you into my home. I trusted you. Emily took a step back, shaking her head. Anna, please. Anna pulled something out of her bag and threw it at Emily's feet. A stack of printed papers. Screenshots. Every single text, call log, hotel booking. Emily flinched like she had been slapped. I got your little messages from Michael, Anna said, voice laced with venom. Didn't take much to put the rest together. My husband is an idiot, but you. She let out a dry chuckle. You're just pathetic. Jason turned on me, rage flickering in his eyes. You set us up. I didn't even pretend to deny it. Of course I did. He clenched his jaw. You're a... Careful, I cut him off, my voice dangerously low. You're standing in my house, talking to me. Jason shut his mouth, but his hands curled into fists. Not that I cared. Emily turned to me, her panic morphing into desperation. Michael, please. I pulled another set of papers from my pocket and held them up. Divorce papers. Her breath caught. I smirked. And don't worry, I made sure you get absolutely nothing. Emily broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she collapsed to her knees. Please, Michael. You don't have to do this. We can fix this. We can. I crouched down to her level, my voice eerily calm. You made your choice, I whispered. Now, live with it. She sobbed harder, reaching for me, but I stood up and took a step back. Jason's voice wavered as he turned to Anna. Babe, listen, Anna slapped him. Hard. You're disgusting, she spat before turning to me. Michael, thank you for this. Really? I gave her a small nod. Pleasure's mine. She exhaled sharply, then turned on her heel and walked out the door. Jason scrambled after her. Anna, wait. The second they were gone, I looked down at Emily one last time. A crying mess on the floor. I sighed. Get out of my house. She didn't move. I leaned down, my voice turning ice cold. I said, get out. Her breath hitched, and finally, she stood. With shaking hands, she turned and walked out. I shut the door behind her, locked it, and let out a slow breath. It was over. The house was silent. For the first time in years, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. No more lies. No more betrayals. No more waking up next to someone who had been sneaking around behind my back. Emily was gone. I stood there for a moment, staring at the locked door. A part of me had expected her to bang on it, scream, beg, but she didn't. Maybe she knew it wouldn't work. Maybe she was too ashamed. Or maybe, just maybe, she had finally realized she had lost everything. I poured myself another glass of whiskey and sat down on the couch, exhaling slowly. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I felt calm. I glanced at my phone. A message from my lawyer. Filed. She has no legal claim to anything. Divorce will be finalized soon. I smirked. Perfect. I should have let things be. Should have walked away, let Emily fade into nothing. But after everything she had done, I wasn't done yet. I picked up my phone and made one final call. The line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Hello. Hey, Mark. Mark was Emily's boss. More importantly, he was the CEO of the company she worked at. We had met at corporate events before, made small talk over drinks. He liked me well enough. I leaned back on the couch, keeping my voice casual. Just thought you should know, Emily's been, using work hours for personal activities. Silence. Then, what do you mean? I chuckled. Check her office cameras. Her call logs. You'll see. Mark was quiet for a moment, then sighed. I'll look into it. Appreciate it. I hung up. Would she get fired? Maybe. Would it ruin her career? Probably. Did I care? Not in the slightest. 2 days later, she called. I didn't answer. Then she texted. Emily, Michael, please. Pick up. I need to talk to you. I didn't reply. She called again. And again. Until, finally, I picked up, just to end this once and for all. Her voice was a wreck. Michael, you? I cut her off. What do you want, Emily? A shaky breath. I lost my job. I smirked. Tough break. You did this. She snapped, her voice cracking. You. I did nothing, I interrupted. You did this to yourself. You cheated. You lied. And now you're facing the consequences. Silence. Then, sobbing. Michael, please. I have nothing left. No job, no money, nowhere to go. Just let me come back. Let's fix this. I almost laughed. Unbelievable. You think, I said slowly, after everything, I would ever take you back? She sniffled. I love you. I sighed. No, Emily. You don't. You loved using me. And now that you've lost, you just want a safety net. She didn't deny it. She just cried. I let the silence stretch before I gave her my final answer. Goodbye, Emily. Then I hung up, blocked her number, and moved on. That night, I slept better than I had in years. No nightmares. No stress. No waking up in the middle of the night, wondering if the person next to me was hiding something. For the first time in a long, long time, I was free. The days after cutting Emily off felt strangely peaceful. I had spent so long drowning in betrayal, anger, and resentment that I had almost forgotten what it was like to wake up without a storm raging in my head. But now, I was free. No more lies. No more excuses. No more waking up to a woman who looked me in the eyes while sneaking behind my back. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I should have expected it. A woman like Emily, selfish, manipulative, always playing the victim, wasn't the type to just disappear quietly. It happened a week later. I was coming home from the gym when I saw her, sitting on my porch. Her hair was a mess, her clothes wrinkled, her makeup smudged from what looked like hours of crying. If she was going for the pathetic and broken look, she nailed it. I sighed, adjusting my gym bag over my shoulder. Emily, what are you doing here? She jumped to her feet. Michael, I know you don't want to see me, but please, just give me 5 minutes. I stared at her. No. She flinched like I had slapped her. I shook my head. Emily, I don't care anymore. I'm done. We're done. Tears welled up in her eyes. Michael, please. I lost everything. My job, my apartment. Not my problem. I cut in coldly. You made your choice, remember? Her lip trembled. I was stupid. I was selfish. But I love you, Michael. I always have. I made a mistake. I let out a humorless chuckle. A mistake. I repeated. You call months of sneaking around, lying to my face, and humiliating me a mistake? She stepped closer, reaching for my arm. I can change. I'll do anything. Just give me another chance. I took a step back. No. Michael, please. She dropped to her knees. Right there on my porch, sobbing like her life depended on it. I can't live without you. I exhaled, running a hand down my face. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. You're not crying because you love me, I said quietly. You're crying because you lost your safety net. She shook her head violently. No, that's not true. I just stared at her. And in that moment, I think she realized. I wasn't coming back. There were no more chances. No more saving her. Her sobs slowed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I sighed. Goodbye, Emily. Then, without another word, I stepped around her, unlocked my door, and went inside. For a moment, I expected her to start banging on the door. Scream, demand, threaten. But she didn't. And when I looked through the window a few minutes later, she was gone. The divorce was finalized a month later. She got nothing. No alimony, no house, not even the car she used to cheat on me. Jason's wife, Anna, took him for everything. Last I heard, he was living in some tiny apartment, drowning in legal fees. Good. And me? I thrived. I started traveling. Hit the gym harder. Focused on my career. And for the first time in forever, I was actually happy. No more lies. No more betrayal. Just me, my life, and a future free from the woman who almost destroyed me. And you know what? I wouldn't change a thing. If you're reading this and going through something similar, listen to me carefully. You don't have to stay with someone who disrespects you, who betrays you, who looks you in the eye and lies without a second thought. Walk away. Not for them. For you. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing more powerful than reclaiming your life. And trust me, it's worth it.